All right, ready to dive into some fascinating companies?
Always.
Let's talk about Inox India Ltd, IIL. Not your typical Indian multinational.
No, not at all.
We're not talking software here. We're going deep into the world of cryogenic equipment. Think specialized storage tanks, the kind you need for industrial gases, liquid natural gas,
Oh, wow.
even liquid air.
Liquid air, huh?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
We've got a whole stack of sources here.
Okay.
Their earnings call transcript, the press release, investor presentation, even dug into some regulatory filings, really trying to get a complete picture here.
Sounds thorough.
So today we're going to try to extract those key insights. What's driving IIL's recent performance?
Well-
What makes them stand out in this really specialized niche?
Well, what fascinates me about Inox is that they're not just building, simple tanks.
Right.
These are high-tech, mission-critical pieces of equipment.
Yeah, absolutely.
It requires a deep understanding of materials, science, thermodynamics, serious engineering to operate in this space.
And their Q3 performance for fiscal year 2025 is seriously impressive. We're talking 18.2% revenue growth year over year. EBITDA, profit after tax, each jumping over 17%.
Wow.
This isn't some company churning out, simple widgets.
Right.
They're making complex, specialized equipment. And
Yeah.
clearly the demand is there.
The demand is there for sure.
What I found really interesting was their export performance.
Yeah, that's a key point.
More than half their revenue this quarter came from international markets. It shows their competitiveness right on a global scale. They're going up against some really established players and winning contracts.
Absolutely. This isn't just about, riding the growth wave in their home market.
Right.
They're out there competing on a global scale and succeeding.
Their order backlog is another big indicator here. They secured, get this, 493 crore in new orders this quarter. That brings their total to 1,341 crore.
That's huge.
It's not just future revenue, right?
Right.
It's a vote of confidence
Absolutely.
from their customers,
Yeah.
especially when you consider just how complex and customized these projects are.
Absolutely. And speaking of complex projects, that mini LNG terminal they're developing in the Bahamas really caught my eye.
Yeah.
This is their biggest LNG project to date. It's a full turnkey operation. They're handling everything. Design, engineering, equipment supply,
Wow.
commissioning.
It's fascinating. They're helping the Bahamas move away from those dirtier fuels.
It's incredible.
But this terminal, it's going to power a 60-megawatt power plant.
Wow.
It's going to provide shore power to cruise ships,
Oh,
showing how versatile LNG solutions can be.
right.
But what's really remarkable is the scale of this project.
It's massive.
Yeah.
That 15,000 cubic meter LNG storage tank,
Yeah,
it's a feat of engineering.
it is.
It's going to be the largest shop-built, double-walled, vacuum-insulated tank installation
Globally.
globally.
Oh.
It shows what IL is capable of, pushing the boundaries in this field.
This isn't just about supplying equipment. This is about a whole solution. It's a trend we're seeing across so many industries now. What really stood out to me, though,
Yeah.
is how ILL is making LNG accessible to, smaller users, not just these huge industrial operations.
Right.
It shows their role in evolving energy markets,
Yeah.
opening up access to cleaner fuels.
Absolutely.
Everybody.
And speaking of pushing boundaries,
Yeah.
their work on that liquid air energy storage facility, the LAES
Right.
facility
Yeah,
in Manchester in the UK, that's another sign of their forward-thinking approach.
it is.
This is the first time they're supplying cryogenic tanks for this type of clean energy storage tech.
It's like a giant battery for renewable energy, right?
Yes.
Storing that excess solar and wind power for when it's needed.
Yeah.
This could be a game changer, right?
Absolutely.
Addressing one of those biggest hurdles for renewable energy, intermittency.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine storing all that solar energy generated during the day
Yeah.
and using it at night to power homes and businesses.
It's a brilliant concept.
It is.
And this project shows how committed they are to going beyond those traditional markets, becoming a key player in this clean energy transition.
Yeah.
And what's really intriguing is the potential, to scale this technology up.
Yeah.
If this is successful, it could really pave the way for wider adoption of LAES,
Yeah.
using IL's expertise in cryogenics to make that renewable energy grid more stable, more reliable.
It's a great example of how they're using what they're good at, their core competencies, to enter these new and exciting growth markets.
Absolutely.
But they're not forgetting their existing lines of business.
No, not at all.
They just secured a significant order
Right.
for LNG trailers
Okay.
from an Indian steel plant. Now, this plant is far from
Ah,
any natural gas pipeline.
okay.
So these trailers are essential.
They are.
This highlights, I think, that growing demand for LNG as a cleaner alternative to traditional fuels,
For sure.
especially, in places where they don't have access to that natural gas infrastructure. IL is enabling them to adopt cleaner operations,
Yeah.
even in these, challenging environments.
Oh, right.
What I found particularly interesting about this project is the social impact side of things.
Oh,
This steel plant is providing jobs to former left-wing extremists, people who are rejoining the mainstream workforce.
that's amazing.
It's a fantastic example of how these technological advancements
Yeah,
in
yeah.
business operations can have these positive ripple effects.
For sure.
It's not just about the bottom line. It's
Right.
about contributing to broader societal goals.
Absolutely. It's technology with a heart.
It is. It is. Now, let's talk about what gives IL an edge in this competitive market.
All right.
They've got over 30 years of experience
Wow.
in this field. A team of, get this, over 400 engineers
Right.
who can customize solutions for, the most complex projects.
It's not just about building tanks, right?
That's not-
It's about providing those tailored solutions to those specific customer needs.
Absolutely. Their global footprint is another big advantage.
Hmm.
Operations in India, Brazil, and Europe.
That's impressive.
This gives them reach, right?
Yeah.
They can cater to all sorts of international clients,
Yeah.
navigate those different regulatory landscapes. Having a presence in multiple markets
Yeah.
gives them valuable insights, flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
They're not resting on their laurels either.
Right.
They're constantly innovating, developing new products.
Oh, right.
They're staying ahead of these industry trends. They even mention working on projects related to liquid hydrogen
Wow.
and even fusion energy.
That's incredible. Those are areas with immense potential,
Yeah.
but also significant technological hurdles.
Mm-hmm.
IL's willingness to invest in these fields really speaks volumes about their long-term vision.
It does, yeah.
They're not just responding to, the current market demands.
Right.
They're actively positioning themselves to be at the forefront of those future technological advancements.
So it's clear IL is firing on all cylinders. Their core business is strong. Their export markets are booming. They're making these strategic moves into new and exciting fields,
Yeah.
like clean energy storage, liquid hydrogen. What really strikes me is their agility, the way they can adapt and evolve in this rapidly changing market.
That's crucial in today's world.
It is.
They're not just riding a wave, they're
Yeah.
actively shaping their future,
Yeah.
anticipating, responding to these emerging trends.
This begs the question, what does this mean for investors?
Yeah.
What are the potential risks and
Mhm.
rewards of, betting on a company like IL?
Well, that's a discussion for our next segment.
Okay.
We're going to delve into those investor questions
Mm-hmm.
raised during their earnings call,
Right.
exploring how the market perceives IL's growth potential, profitability, and of course the competitive landscape.
Sounds like a plan. Stay tuned, folks. We'll be right back to dissect those investor concerns and unpack what the future holds for Inox India Ltd.
All right, we're back. Ready to unpack some of those investor questions from Inox's latest earnings call? These questions, they offer a glimpse into what the market's thinking, how the company's addressing those concerns and opportunities.
Definitely.
I'm particularly interested in their growth projections. They're aiming for 18 to 20% revenue growth for fiscal year 2025.
Ambitious.
Ambitious is an understatement.
Yeah.
So naturally, investors are, a little curious
Mhm.
about whether this is sustainable. Some even question whether Q4 could deliver the numbers needed to hit that goal, especially considering, historically Q3 has been their strongest quarter.
Makes sense to wonder about that.
Yeah, so what do they have to say about maintaining this, impressive growth trajectory?
They sounded pretty confident, actually. They highlighted a couple factors working in their favor.
First, they pointed out that, in India, Q4 tends to be the strongest quarter for a lot of industries, including their own. They're expecting a natural uptick in activity, which should help them reach that target.
Yeah.
And secondly, and maybe more importantly, they've got that really strong order backlog, remember?
Right.
With a lot of those customer-specific projects scheduled for delivery by the end of March, they seem to believe they can execute on those projects and hit their revenue goals.
That order backlog definitely provides some reassurance. But investors also want to know if IL can maintain these current profitability margins. especially as they take on more large-scale, complex projects like that mini LNG terminal in the Bahamas.
Right, right.
Remember, we talked about how massive that is.
Huge undertaking.
It is. And those kinds of projects could put pressure on margins.
Yeah, definitely a valid concern.
Yeah.
Investors did bring up potential margin fluctuations, especially as IL is navigating that, more competitive global landscape.
So how are they planning to balance growth and profitability with all these challenges?
Well, they emphasize their focus on operational efficiency and cost optimization. Streamlining those processes, leveraging technology, looking at ways to optimize their supply chain.
Sure.
They also highlighted that projects like the mini LNG terminal, even with all that complexity, tend to have slightly better margins than their standard product offerings.
Interesting.
So that could partially offset any downward pressure from other areas of the business.
It sounds like they're walking a tightrope.
Yeah.
But at least they're aware of the challenges and have a plan in place.
They do.
Another question that popped up was about seasonality. Do they experience peaks and valleys in demand throughout the year like some other capital goods companies?
Yeah, it's a smart question because understanding those patterns can help, predict future performance.
Right.
But TIL claims their business isn't particularly seasonal. They explain that their products are used across a diverse range of industries, which helps to smooth out any fluctuations. They did admit that the first 2 quarters in India tend to be a bit slower, with about 20–25% of revenue generated during that period, but the second half of the year doesn't look drastically different.
Having that diverse customer base
Yeah.
definitely helps with those more stable and
Right.
predictable revenue streams.
Mm-hmm.
Let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk about their venture into the beverage keg market. This caught a lot of attention during the call.
It did.
They've recently received a prestigious certification for their keg facility.
They
right?
did. IL became the first company in Asia to receive that FSSC 22000 certification. It basically means they meet those highest global standards for food and beverage safety.
That's huge.
It's a big deal. It shows their commitment to quality and compliance in this new market.
It really is a testament to their ability to meet those stringent international standards. But some investors seemed concerned about the slower than expected revenue ramp up in that segment.
Yeah, some folks were wondering about that.
So what's the holdup?
Well, it turns out that the beverage industry operates a bit differently than some of IL's other markets. Those large breweries, their primary target for these kegs,
Right.
they typically have a pretty lengthy approval process.
Oh, okay.
It involves a lot of testing and trials before they commit to large orders.
Makes sense.
IL initially expected those approvals by Q3, but now it's looking more like Q4.
So the revenue's coming,
Yeah.
just not as fast as they initially thought.
Exactly. But they did say they've already gotten approval for samples from some major breweries.
Oh, okay.
So that's a positive sign. It suggests their kegs meet those quality and performance standards. It's just a matter of time before those bigger orders start coming in.
It's a classic hurry up and wait situation,
It is.
which can be frustrating for those investors eager to see that return.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
But you have to remember that entering a new market takes time,
Yeah.
patience, building
Mm.
trust and relationships with those key players. It's crucial,
Mm-hmm.
and it sounds like IL's making progress.
Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, the competitive pressures they face,
Yeah.
especially from Chinese manufacturers
Hmm?
in the LNG fuel tank market, where price is everything.
Price is always a factor.
It is. So investors wanted to know how IL plans to compete with those Chinese manufacturers who are notorious for their aggressive pricing. They even asked about the price difference between IL's tanks and those from China.
They did.
I imagine it's significant.
Oh, yeah. IL admitted those Chinese tanks are priced about 10 to 15% lower.
Wow.
But they're fighting back on a couple of fronts. First, they've started those anti-dumping measures to try to level the playing field.
Right.
They believe those Chinese manufacturers are engaging in unfair trade practices by selling below market value.
Hmm.
So they're looking for government intervention to address that. Secondly, they're emphasizing their ability to provide those customized solutions
Yeah.
and strong customer support, something they believe Chinese manufacturers struggle with.
Yeah.
So they're positioning themselves as that higher quality,
Right.
more reliable option,
Yeah.
even if it costs a little bit more.
It's like David versus Goliath.
It is, kind of.
IL, the nimble local player,
Yeah.
taking on those massive low-cost producers from China. But they're not just relying on government intervention and differentiation. They're also leveraging the Make in India initiative.
That's right. They mentioned that Indian automotive manufacturers are increasingly prioritizing sourcing from
Mm-hmm.
domestic suppliers.
Yeah.
So that could give IL an edge.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
This government-led initiative, it aims to boost domestic manufacturing, reduce reliance on imports,
Hmm.
potentially create a more favorable environment for IL to compete against those foreign rivals.
Absolutely.
It's a multi-pronged approach. Be interesting to see how it plays out.
For sure.
One investor asked a really insightful question about market share. How does IL plan to gain ground on the current leader in the LNG space?
Good question. Their strategy focuses on leveraging their agility and speed. They believe their ability to quickly design and engineer those solutions, responding to customer needs faster than their larger, more bureaucratic competitors, that's a key advantage.
Yeah.
They're also targeting those niche applications where their customization capabilities really shine, catering to those specialized needs those bigger players might overlook because they're focused on mass production.
It's smart, focusing on their strengths, targeting areas where they have a clear advantage,
Exactly.
avoids that, head-to-head competition in areas where they might be at a disadvantage.
Right.
And I'm curious about their expansion plans. Any potential new areas they're looking to enter? Did they mention any significant capital expenditure plans, especially for that rapidly growing LNG segment?
They did talk about their CapEx strategy. They've already invested about 100 crore in CapEx last year, and they're planning another 80 to 100 crore this year.
Okay.
They believe that's enough to support their growth for the next couple of years, focusing on expanding capacity in their existing facilities and upgrading their technology.
So no giant cake factory on the moon just yet.
Not yet.
Yeah.
But they did say they have plenty of room to ramp up CapEx if needed. They're taking a measured approach for now, making sure they're allocating capital wisely and not overspending in segments that might not grow as fast as anticipated.
Like the beverage keg market.
Exactly.
Makes sense. Prudence is key. Did they hint at any other exciting new areas they're exploring?
They were a little vague on specifics, but they did mention a few promising sectors. They're eyeing the growth in India's steel industry. The government is planning to really ramp up steel production capacity over the next decade.
Right.
And IWAL expects to capture a chunk of that growth by providing cryogenic equipment for those new steel plants.
It's a natural extension of what they already do.
Yeah, leveraging that expertise they have in cryogenic solutions for those heavy industries.
From specialized tanks for LNG to equipment for these massive steel plants, it's quite a range.
They also mentioned the semiconductor industry, which has seen huge investments in India right now. They already supply those high-purity gas tanks and piping to companies like Micron in the U.S., and they believe they can do the same in the Indian market.
So they're aiming to be a key player in building India's own Silicon Valley.
Yeah, exactly. They also mentioned exploring opportunities in the ammonia market, specifically how it relates to transporting hydrogen. Apparently, ammonia is a really cost-effective way to move hydrogen around, and it's easy to split back into nitrogen and hydrogen at the destination.
Interesting, especially with all the buzz around hydrogen as a clean fuel source.
Exactly. It seems like they're always thinking ahead, anticipating those future trends.
They did mention some involvement in space projects too, didn't they?
Oh, yeah. They're seeing more demand from India's space program, as well as from those big science projects in Europe and the U.S., particularly in repairs and upgrades to existing equipment.
Okay.
That expertise in cryogenics is in high demand in those fields.
So they've got their fingers in a lot of interesting pies.
They do.
But before we get too carried away, let's circle back to that social impact story you mentioned earlier about those LNG trailers for the steel plant.
Oh, right. So that steel plant, it's located in a region that's been affected by, left-wing extremism.
Yeah.
And they've made a point of hiring people who are reintegrating into mainstream society after being involved with those extremist groups.
It's a great example of how businesses can do good, going beyond profits and playing an active role in addressing social issues.
Yeah, IL's showing how a company can contribute to positive social change through their work.
So taking all of this into account, what's the big picture for IL?
Well, that's the million-dollar question. And that's what we'll tackle in our final segment. We'll try to put all this information together, analyze those key takeaways, and discuss what the potential risks and rewards are for investors looking at IL.
All right. Stay tuned, folks. We'll be right back to wrap up our deep dive into Inox India Ltd. We'll leave you with some thought-provoking insights. Welcome back, folks. Ready for the final part of our deep dive?
Let's wrap this up.
We've really gone in depth on Inox India Ltd.
Yeah, we have. Operations, innovations, market dynamics, lots to unpack.
I mean, their financials, those forays into clean energy and venturing into semiconductors, even space exploration.
It's been a journey.
It has been, it has been. So IL, not your average industrial equipment manufacturer.
No, not at all. They're really operating on that cutting edge, responding to global trends with some serious agility.
They are. So let's try to synthesize this, distill some key takeaways. What have we learned?
All right, so first off, their financials are strong, no doubt about it. Double-digit growth across the board, revenue, EBITDA, profit after tax, shows they're executing well, taking advantage of those growth opportunities.
And that massive order backlog.
Oh yeah, can't forget that. It shows they can secure those long-term contracts.
Right.
Instill confidence in their customers. That's a good sign in any market, but especially in such a volatile global market.
It gives them that predictability, stability. What excites me most is that move into clean energy.
Wow.
That mini LNG terminal in the Bahamas is a perfect example.
Yeah, forward thinking, for sure. I mean,
Right.
they're providing complete customized solutions, helping those smaller nations transition to cleaner sources.
They are, and their work with that liquid air energy storage facility in the UK, groundbreaking, potentially a game changer when it comes to those renewable energy challenges, like intermittency.
Yeah, if that tech takes off,
Yeah.
it could have a major impact on the whole industry.
It's amazing to see how they're using what they know about cryogenics to become a leader in the clean energy transition. But they're not stopping there.
No, they're not.
Liquid hydrogen, fusion energy, they're embracing those emerging technologies, always looking to be at the forefront.
It's a smart approach.
Yeah.
Diversifying beyond just clean energy, too.
Yeah.
Semiconductors, ammonia for hydrogen transport, even space exploration. They're ambitious. They want to be a global player.
And that commitment to social impact. Can't forget that. The project with the steel plant, creating jobs for those former extremists. IL is not just about profits.
No, they're contributing to positive change,
Yeah.
showing they understand the bigger picture. They want to make a difference.
But we got to be real, they face challenges too. Those low-cost competitors in the LNG fuel tank
The
market.
Chinese manufacturers, yeah, tough competition. They're getting squeezed on price.
Oh, they are.
They need to find ways to stand out.
Yeah, they're working on it. Anti-dumping measures, emphasizing that customization, customer support, and leveraging that Make in India initiative to appeal to those domestic customers.
It's a tough fight,
Yeah.
but they're showing resilience.
Mm-hmm.
They're adapting.
That global footprint is a plus, though. Operations in multiple countries. It lets them navigate all those different market conditions.
It does, and they can cater to a wider range of clients.
So, after looking at all this, what's the bottom line for our listener?
Well, Inox India Ltd. is at a turning point. They've proven themselves in their core markets. Now they're strategically expanding into these new areas with huge potential. They're not just riding the wave, they're shaping their future.
Embracing innovation, anticipating those emerging demands.
They're not afraid to push boundaries, whether it's developing those clean energy solutions,
That
entering
was-
the world of semiconductors, or even supporting space exploration. It's exciting stuff. Makes them interesting for investors, for sure.
But gotta remember those risks that come with ambitious growth. Competition's fierce. Technology's always changing. Their success depends on navigating those challenges, staying agile, continuing to innovate.
Absolutely.
So the big question, could IL become a household name, synonymous with the future of energy? They're involved in those cutting-edge solutions. Global demand for LNG is on the rise. Could they be the next big thing?
It's a question worth pondering. Only time will tell if they reach that level of recognition. But their dedication to innovation, their strategic moves that focus on sustainability, they're definitely a company to watch.
They are. Well, that wraps up our deep dive into Inox India Ltd. Hope you enjoyed it, found it insightful. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.